Hey, everybody. Rick DeLuca here, and I am here today with my friend.
Jules Wrubel.
All right, Jules. So, as always, we like to give everybody some information on real estate, especially real estate investing. So, Jules, why don't you tell everybody who your company is
Yep,
and what you do exactly?
you bet. So we're lend money, make money. We're private money lenders. We loan money to real estate investors, primarily fix and flips, and then also special circumstances.
Okay. All right. So, let's get into it a little bit more. So, hard money lender. So it's not the traditional one, it's for other unique circumstances. Because with traditional lending, it takes, on average 20, 30, sometimes 40 days. You got to go through the appraisal process, the underwriting. That's what a lot of people are familiar with. What is the difference between that and hard money or private money?
Yeah, it's significantly different. And even within private money, there are tiers.
Hmm.
So if you're a local here in Arizona, you've heard probably of Capital Fund One. They're a big company here. They're a hard money company. Everybody now talks about being private money. And the difference is you can get a loan closed in 24 hours, 48 hours, versus with a bank, you're talking about 45 days, 60 days. Private money, you don't need background check. You don't need a credit check. We don't need to see your bank statements. So it's really easy as far as the process goes.
Okay. Now you say that, but some hard money lenders do require that, right? There's some
Yes.
differences. So some will ask for credit checks or certain a little bit more, kind of like a traditional loan
Yeah. Yeah.
check, whereas some don't, right?
Yeah. So that I would call that institutional private money, institutional hard money. That's going to be national companies. Let's say Lima One comes to mind. They typically are going to want a background check. They might even want tax returns. So what you're really talking about is the source of money.
Okay.
And so if you start with conventional lending, that's traditional lending. We all know that. If we talk about what I would call a hedge fund type of private money, they might want more qualifications. And then as you come down, not in quality, but in a different strata of lender, they require less um, documentation.
Okay. All right. So we just want to break that down because a lot of people think like, hey, there's conventional lending and there's hard money lending,
Mm,
and that's it. But there's actually tiers within it.
there's tiers within tiers.
Okay.
Yes.
So why? So now we just want to give the information to everyone. Why would someone use, for instance, a hard money lender who's requiring like background check and different things like that, and a little bit more, and then the other one who's just kind of I'm going to say the word relationship based because
Hmm.
that's what it seems to be. They kind of know you. They know how you work, and it's just quick and easy. And I'll just say down and dirty, right? It's just you
Yeah.
just get you the money quick.
It's
What is like? Why would someone go to one versus the other?
And that's a great question. The reality is this: when you're talking about those institutional hard money lenders, they're selling those mortgages that they originate just like a conventional lender does. So they're selling them off as fast as they can. Whereas as you come in these different options for private money lending, they're probably going to hold those in their own portfolio. And that's the big difference.
Okay.
If we're trying to resell your note, it has to fit in this box. If we're going to keep it on our books, we have a lot more flexibility.
Okay. And that's why we kind of want people to understand is when they're looking for because they hear, oh yeah, hard money, they think it's gonna be real quick and simple. And it isn't always that case. So there's a difference. That's why. So that's what you want to be asking someone who when they say they're a hard money lender, there's more to it. You want to ask them those questions.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about why you would go to a hard money lender versus another traditional lending. What are some reasons? Well, we know there's fix and flips, right?
Yep.
We know there's sometimes they're going to fix it up but hold it. There's all kinds of different reasons why, but we know that the primary thing is you can't be buying it to live in it yourself, right?
That is true in 99% of the cases.
Right. And then let's talk about when it isn't. the case? Because this is the question we get a lot too.
Okay. So so nobody wants to give you a loan on your primary residence,
Mhm.
right? And yet a lot of people have money tied up in their house. So it is a specialty item. It's legal. And it's a business purpose loan. So if you have equity in your house and you want to take money out to buy a piece of real estate, as an example, that would be considered a business purpose loan. But the paperwork is a little tricky. And so most investors just don't want to touch that. So
Okay.
it's totally doable. It's completely legal. But again, the reason people say they won't give you a loan on your primary residence is it's just a specialty item.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about risk, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to buy this house that's deeply discounted because of the condition it's in. However, I want to live in it." Is that something?
Nah. There's always a story behind every question, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking like 20 stories at the same time. It depends, right? It depends, but that one's a pretty much a no.
Yeah.
You really want to stay away from that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
People do it. People do everything, but stay away from that. That's just
Right.
It's like a red
Like
flag,
if someone comes to you and say, "Hey, I want this loan on this house and I'm going to fix it up and move into it," you're going to say no.
I'm not touching that.
Right. And that's pretty much every hard money lender. But that's a question we get a lot of times on our side of the real estate world.
Well, and again, there's always a caveat, right? So
Right.
it could be that you have a legitimate business purpose that you're going to move into the house and you're going to rent part of the house to your business and you actually have a business. And so again, that becomes a technicality.
Right.
Is it possible?
But it's a very
Yes.
unique situation.
It's a unique situation.
Yeah.
And
It's not 99% of the 0.99% of the people. So
you'd have, again, somebody would probably charge you more for that and want to see more documentation to prove that in fact, I would just stay away from that.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we want everybody to understand because we get that question a lot.
Yeah.
Where people, because it is a legitimate question because especially if you're handy and you can do a lot of the work yourself and you see this house and it's steeply discounted compared to the average retail price because it does need work because you get the discount of the fixing up plus of having to take the time and money to do so. That's what fix and flippers do, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people try to do that. However, they can't keep the house and plan on living in it themselves in that situation. It's not what the intention of the hard money loan.
It's not the intention, exactly.
Right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more. Let's move on to that's the differences. So we find a place, we want to get the hard money loan. What is the process of that? I give you a call. I say, here's this house. I want to buy it. Tell me how that's structured. Do I need to have money in it? Where does the money come from for the rehab? How does that get structured?
Yeah. And so there's the simple version, which is you want your borrower to have 10% down.
At least, right?
You want them to. And again, depending on who you're working with, they're going to have slightly different requirements. But basically, what's the address?
Yeah.
That's what we need to know. What's the address? Because we're really going to do our own research anyway. So let's just keep it like really, really simple. Somebody calls me up. They have an address. Do I like the property? Do I like the deal? And then I want to hear the story. So 99% of the time we get a text that here's the property, here's what I want. You're going to do yourself a huge favor if you make your lender's life easier.
Okay, how do we do that?
Have you analyzed the property yourself? A lot of times we're analyzing the property for the borrower and we really don't want to do that because if you make it easy for the lender, you're more likely to get the funds.
Right.
Okay. But your question is, just need to know the property, right? So we specialize in gap funding. So presumably you may already have a first position lender in place. We want to know what their terms are. We want to know how long you want to hold the property for. We want to know all the same things, right?
Because gap funding is what?
Gap funding is, I don't have a down payment or I don't have the construction funds, but I think this is a good deal. So we'll come into that position. Yes. But I want to go back to your first question, which is we just need to know the address. Do you have any money? And if you're in fact doing the building, who's your builder? Because we're not going to loan money to somebody who doesn't have a contractor's license for the most part.
Okay.
For the most part. It depends.
Right. Everything depends. So that's the thing is a lot of people are looking and when they're not giving, sometimes they don't want to give information. When they're not doing it, it's a red flag, right? Especially in the lending world.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're legitimately trying to do this as a business, as an investment, investment, that term, anytime you say that, risk. Goal is to make money, but you can lose money. And that could be your money. That could be Jules's money. So everybody's trying to mitigate that risk. And then also with that hard money loan, you do your numbers, you do your budget, what not, but you're going to look at that as well, correct?
Yes.
So that's a great thing to point out because a lot of people, they just go to hard money lenders and they get the loan and whatnot. And you want to make sure you have a second pair of eyes on that. And so your hard money lender, don't look at them as just kind of a adversary. Look at them as a partner because they're actually helping you because you're in it to help people succeed and make money on the deal. You want them to, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I don't say this as often because mostly I'm working with people who are investors, but the lender does not want your house.
Right.
I don't want your house. I just want the check and the capital. So we've turned down more than a few people who I'm like, I have to be honest with you, you're not going to make any money on this deal. I'll make money. You're not going to make any money. I think you're making a big mistake. I won't do that deal, but you're right. You want to have team members, your lender, you want them to be on your team and looking out for your best interest. Because at the end of the day, when you make money, we make money and we get to do it over and over again. So rinse and repeat is the formula.
Right.
Yeah.
Hard money lenders aren't looking to lend money to someone one time and go away. They want that relationship. They want to keep working. And then as you work with each other, they get better terms, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, it's just easier. It's the process is a little bit easier, right?
Theoretically,
yes.
Yeah. When you work with a big institutional lender, yes, you're going to start to get better terms. But when you're working with most,
you're
going to get fair terms.
The process, everybody kind of gets to know how to work with each other, and it goes a little quicker and easier.
For sure.
Terms in that it's a business. Yeah. That's what a lot of people don't realize. It's a business. You're running a business. And as we're talking to a lot of people who have not done this before. Yeah. And as you go, life just gets easier. You learn, you kind of see what your hard money lender needs. You know what to provide. And it's just an easy process. Couple emails, phone call, done.
Yes.
First time, not so much. You're going to have to take your time. So that's why I tell everybody, get that relationship ahead of time established, get all the costs, the estimates, and then find the property. Because you find the property and you need to grab it and put the hard money, the earnest money down hard, non-refundable, and you don't want to get in that situation. You want to make sure you got your hard money lined up first before you start getting into that contract, right?
Especially if you're going to get into buying wholesale contracts. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Be ready beforehand. Nobody wants to see you lose $5,000, $10,000, whatever the going rate is. Definitely be ready. But the side note, I mean, if you're not buying from wholesale for whatever reason, respect your realtor. The realtor is your friend, big time. Right. I'm not just saying that. Title company is your friend. So look at that as a team. So,
right. Yeah, because there's one of the big differences is there's not a traditional appraiser going out and checking on the price. So it's really you're doing the underwriting, the lender, the hard money lender, and the buyer. And so if your numbers are off, there's no safety net with an appraisal there.
That's right.
That's it. Yeah. So the other one would be lean on your realtor. That's why a lot of people, why do I need to, you know what? You get a really good experienced realtor that has that background. Like myself, I was an appraiser for 12 years.
Yeah.
So that's my little expertise niche in there. And we're able to help people do that. So if you find someone like that, get someone like that on your team
Yes.
so that you have a third set of eyes on that. And that's what really helps. So, okay, now going into that, you mentioned costs. Let's kind of break that down. You could do it for you or you could do it in general. Hard money costs are different. Sometimes they're called soft costs because they're part of the fix and flip. Okay, got to pay for paint, got a painter, flooring, appliances, and then you have these soft costs, which is like your insurance, the lending piece, and you got to account for that because if you don't, then that's going to come out of your profit or create no profit at the end. So what are those costs on hard money?
Sure. Yeah. And it's I could go on. Know your costs. Know your costs. So there's going to be typically origination fee, which most people have heard of in a traditional loan, processing fee, which is a familiar term, title fees, right? So you're not going to have unusual costs that you're not used to. They just might sound different. So let's call them what they are: origination fee, processing, underwriting can sometimes be separate. And every company is a little bit different. But again, when you're kind of in that institutional band, there's kind of a set, everybody kind of has the same competitive fees, right? So each tier kind of has its own fee structure. But again, if you're a newer investor, know all of your costs at the beginning. And then I'm going to say something, which is that your costs and your rate don't matter. What matters is your deal. So when people call me and they say, well, can you do this and you can do that? I'm like, you should definitely get the best deal you can from every one of your vendors. That might not be me, but know your costs because, if you're paying 18 or 20%, let's say all in on a private money loan, but you're making 30%, you're still doing well, right? So don't
Right.
get obsessed with one part of your project. You want to think globally, and your costs are a part of that.
Yeah.
You want to know that in advance.
Because everybody asks every hard money lender the first thing, oh, hi, nice to meet you. What's your rate?
Right.
And then the rate, because it depends. So some people charge, the origination fee, they call it points.
Mm-hmm.
It could be none, it could be 1 or 2. It just depends. So those costs can vary because you can get somebody could be offering a really nice rate,
Right.
and it sounds great, but then when you start totaling up those fees, it goes up.
Yeah.
So, typically in the market, most people are going to be similar in some aspect,
Yeah.
depending on back of their end of their business, right?
Right.
One and two, the risk. What kind of risk are you, right? So if especially when you're brand new and you're kind of and you understand, we understand that you're really trying to keep the costs low, you're scared a little bit, this is new to you, you're trying to keep the costs low. We understand that. However, you're a big risk to the lender because they're going to ask, how many flips have you done, how many times have you done this? And the answer is, this is my first one, you're a greater risk. So you're not going to get the top tier, low, everything, and easy peasy 24-hour funding. You can, but it's typically not going to happen like that because this is the first go around. So prepare,
Mm-hmm.
and if anything, I would say find a hard money lender who's going to educate you.
Yeah.
Because if you pay a couple thousand more, $1,000 more in your loan, but you learn from your lender, I think that's more valuable than what you're actually paying.
Yeah. Actually, if you don't mind, I have a story about that.
Yeah.
I got a call recently from it was referral, and they were looking for private money, hard money, and I don't really negotiate that much, honestly, because our niche is pretty niche, and that's intentional. So but they were referred to me, and I helped them out, and they had a really nice offer from somebody else, and I said, you should take that deal. And they asked me, well, can you do better? And in this case, I wasn't willing to do better. And here's why: because that person was uneducated, they were nervous, They were making me nervous. They were making everybody nervous. And they started wasting a lot of people's time. So I called the person who referred them to me and I'm like, look, I want to help this person out, but I don't think I'm going to. Can you talk to them? Because I wanted to set a baseline, right? Get some education, listen to all the podcasts. Maybe you get a mentor because you will save time and pay people for their time. If you really don't know what you're doing, it is probably worth you spending money to hire somebody to learn a little bit more because it will save you time on the back end.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can't say enough about that. If you're not educated and you want to get into business, hang out with people like Rick. Come to the meetups. Come to Azria. Do all those things and get educated because you will save. Let's say it takes a year for you to get educated. You'll make way more money than if you just jump in, don't know what you're doing, and you wasted your time and a bunch of other people's time.
Right. Yeah, that's what we tell a lot of people is we say, look, we do charge for our services, but we're helping you along the way. And we're taking our experience from the mistakes we've made, but also have seen others people make to help you be more successful. So it's like anything, a business, even like a doctor or some kind of other trade that's skilled, you have to go to school, you pay, you take your time, and real estate is no different than that. You have to take your time, pay someone to mentor you, pay someone to teach you. Because if you don't, and you just kind of jump in and think and you're going to figure it out, and we're real estate now, we're dealing with you might put the 10% down or whatnot, but you're looking at something that's 3, 4, 500,000 or more,
right?
And that's a lot of money. And if you make a mistake, that's it. You could get wiped out of your real estate journey real fast.
Well, and you bring up a really good point. There's another part to this, which is a lot of new investors. Everybody has best intentions. I'll say, well, mostly people have best intentions, and they'll bring friends and family in.
Yeah.
But they end up hurting their friends and family because they're not educated.
Right.
And so that's almost a bigger piece. I see a lot of people who have their friends and family give them a loan. Paperwork's done completely wrong. And suddenly the people you love and care about are actually the ones that get hurt. And that doesn't need to happen.
Right. Because there's a lot of people here like you and I who are here to help people and do whatever we can to prevent that. We want everybody to succeed. But let's face it, there's a lot of risk. A lot of risk. There's all kinds. We can tell stories about, unforeseen costs and plumbing issues and things like that. And, there goes your profit. But then we start really getting concerned when it's like, well, there might go my original capital.
Yes.
Or I might not even be able to sell this and I have to write a check.
Yes.
Out of my own account just to get rid of this property.
Yes.
So, we're starting to see that, where investors are starting to get foreclosed on again, where, everything's great when it's an up market, everybody's making money, but when it's flat or going down, you really need to watch it even more than ever.
You got to watch it.
So, yeah, we love this industry. We've been doing it for a long time. It's great, a lot of success stories, but there's it's not quick, easy money either. It's a lot of work and a lot of education to get to where you need to be to make money. Sometimes you do get fortunate and things go great, which we love,
yes.
But it's not always that case. So, all right. Well, thanks a lot, Jules. Really appreciate this. I hope everybody else got a little bit more information about what hard money is. And if anybody has any questions or want to contact you, what's the best way, Jules?
Best way to contact me is 480-737-8. Gosh, that's so funny. What is my number? I'm going to give you a different number.
Okay.
928-300-9685. The best way to get a hold of me is to text me.
Okay.
Because I reply to text all day long. So 928-300-9685.
There we go. Yeah, everybody's a little different. Sometimes I'm not as great at text, but emails I check real fast. Phone calls are great for me. But But I know a lot of people don't like phone calls because it seems to take more time. But I'd rather have a quick phone call and get it done versus texting back and forth. Everybody's a little different. So,
Sure.
yeah, I like Instagram too, especially
Yeah.
people reaching out has been a great tool for us. So, all right, Jules. Well, thanks a lot. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
And thanks
Thank you.
for clarifying that a little bit more and give us the information today.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye.